We welcome you to MetLife Stadium. It's the Giants Fan Fest, and this is the Giants Training Camp Report presented by Investors Bank. Bob Papa along with Carl Banks, two-time Super Bowl champion. And Carl, it's been a long time since we've seen fans here at MetLife Stadium, and certainly a very energetic crowd as the Giants are holding this open practice.
Yeah, it feels like home again, Bob, and this is exactly what these fans have been waiting on.
They got here early. There are all kinds of festivities before the practice started, and obviously the fans here, a lot of optimism for this football team. And the Giant defense is wearing white. The offense is wearing blue, and this Giant defense, Carl, they're going to be pretty good this season, but everybody's looking at Daniel Jones because they need him to have a good season.
Well, you know, it's Daniel Jones having a good season is a function of the offensive line having a good season, the wide receivers having a good season, and the running back group having a good season. If those things fall into place, Daniel Jones will do his job.
Carl, obviously, normally in training camp, as you see Daniel Jones and offensive coordinator Jason Garrett chatting it up, normally, there's fans at training camp. Due to COVID-19, there were no fans at all in MetLife Stadium last season for any games, let alone training camp. And obviously, with safety protocols, the Giants decided to have this fan fest. It gives you a little energy when you're in front of the fans, doesn't it?
Oh, it certainly does, and it breaks the monotony of practice. Now, keep in mind, it's a lot of humidity out here today. It's in the 90s. It probably, down on the field, it probably feels like it's 100 plus. But having these fans just gives you that energy to keep going and giving your best.
There is Danny Shelton, who's going to be a big bonus to this Giants defense. Carl, athletic, he's strong. Obviously, he's huge. But he fits in perfectly with Joe Judge and Patrick Graham are looking for.
Well, yeah, you got to have an athletic big in the middle of your defense because they run a 3-4 defense, and that nose tackle is a key component to be able to get off the center and go left to right.
What are some of the things that are important in this drill that they're working on here, Carl?
It's footwork, it's quickness, it's turning the hips and turning the shoulder. As you see, they're running basically a figure eight, but they're trying to keep it very tight because the quicker you can get around that opponent, the faster and the shorter the distance is to getting to the quarterback.
Obviously, for the New York Giants, getting to the quarterback is something that they have to be able to do on a more consistent basis this year.
Well, here's the thing about the Giants pass rush and their ability to generate a pass rush via scheme or individual personnel. They've got good defensive backs too, and so they'll play off of each other and benefit each other.
There's Patrick Graham, the defensive coordinator of the Giants, and the Giants have certainly upgraded their secondary at the safety and the corner position. Julian Love is one of those many versatile kind of players that the Giants have where you can plug him in a lot of different places.
Well, Julian Love is a guy that, he played corner, he's played safety, but he's a football player, and that's what they love about him because he just fits in wherever the scheme needs him.
James Bradbury had an outstanding year, and you see number 22, Adoree Jackson. The Giants have two corners right there that are top-flight players. Last year, the spot that Adoree Jackson was playing was kind of the go-to area for opposing teams. They stayed away from Bradbury, and they just kind of went at the other side. Adoree Jackson is an accomplished player in his own right.
Well, he's accomplished, Bob. I tell you, I had not seen a lot of him in person, but his short area quickness, I looked at him in practice yesterday, and just the ability to stop and go and cover really short routes, he could be a slot corner or an outside corner. His skill set is that diverse.
Yeah, and we talked about the pass rush. Well, when you have good corners like that, it also helps your pass rush, and it really does work in tandem, doesn't it?
Yeah, we call that complementary football because if you can generate a pass rush or you can cover and take away those first looks, both areas of your defense benefit.
Right now, working on some run fits as you get a look at the Giant defense. What about number 51, Azeez Ojulari? The Giants selected him in the second round. He's a player that a lot of people thought in the National Football League was going to go in round number 1. What have you seen out of him so far?
Just good body lean, explosive, good hands, Bob. He can put his hands in the ground or he can stand up, but he has got some explosiveness. So, what they're teaching here in these drills, when you talk about fit, it's hand placement also. It's not just moving to the area you're supposed to be in. It's fundamentals from the minute you put your hand in the ground until the whistle blows. You've got to make sure that everything you do can be replicated at full speed.
Corey Clement, the former Philadelphia Eagle, with that little screen pass from Daniel Jones. And Carl, the Giants obviously have upgraded their backfield. Clement is a guy that tormented the Giants whenever he played against them. Giant fans are happy to see him wearing blue and not Eagles green.
Yeah, he's another explosive weapon. And again, you look at this offense, Bob, and you talk about weapons, but these are running backs that can all catch the ball. They can all run the football. That gives you versatility when you put personnel groupings in. They're not a predictable unit.
Daniel Jones working with the first-team offense against the second-team defense.
And I'll tell you, with Daniel Jones, the best thing that could have happened to him, aside from the offensive weapons that he got, is going against Adoree Jackson and James Bradbury in this defensive backfield, because this is a top-level defensive backfield, and he won't see many on a consistent basis like he's seeing every day in practice.
Obviously, the Giants are trying to utilize the entire field here at MetLife Stadium and get as many different looks as they possibly can and get as many guys reps. With only 3 preseason games, Carl, you got a little bit less chance for evaluation, and the teams have to make a cut after the first preseason game. 5 guys have to go on each team.
Yeah, they do, but that's why the practice tempo of this team is a lot different, because it's a constant evaluation, and players know that they have to give a lot in practice so that they can impress the coaches, or should I say impress the judge, that they are worthy of being on this roster. They compete in everything they do, and one of the players that we got a glimpse at last year, and he just gave us kind of a taste of what he could be, is Xavier McKinney. He is having an outstanding camp, and you can see as a pro, he was made for the pro game. I mean, he came in with a great tool set, but with just a limited amount of time that he played, and this being his first full camp, you could see he is just ready to go.
All eyes are on this Giants offensive line too, Carl, because that is going to be a very important part of this football team in 2021. Can they run the ball effectively? Can they be a team that can get Saquon Barkley back, use these other running backs, and not be in 3rd and longs?
Well, and that's the key, Bob. But the other thing, too, they got valuable experience, because with offensive linemen, everything they see for the first time is for the first time, and they get twisted. And defensive coordinators love to take advantage of young offensive linemen, because they just don't know how to react to certain situations because they've never been in them. And in college, you never see the schemes that you see at the pro level. So the fact that this group got a chance to get some valuable experience in over 16 games will serve them well in their second season.
Giants head coach Joe Judge not paying attention to the humidity in East Rutherford, New Jersey, going with a hooded sweatshirt.
Yeah, hopefully he stays hydrated, because he is losing a lot of fluids. A guy that, you have in the middle of your offense, Nick Gates, who gives you an element of toughness, and I was convinced that he's a giant football player. When they played the Rams and he stood up to Aaron Darnold, and they locked up, and he would not back down. That tells you he's not going to be intimidated. So this is a group where toughness is going to be important in this style offense.
This is ones against ones here for the New York Giants, as they're working out of an offset eye. This is Booker with the handoff. Devontae Booker, signed by the Giants after spending time with the Oakland Raiders. There's Xavier McKinney around the football.
Yeah, and he will spend time on the bench if he gets the ball stripped like that. But that's what this defense does each and every practice. It's interceptions, it's turnovers. They turn the ball over quite a bit in practice, and this is why this is invaluable for this group. focus all the way through the play. I'm sure that's what he's hearing from the running backs coach, Benton Burton, that you can't relax even in these types of tempos.
All right, Daniel Jones going to put one up here. Little Darius Slayton catch.
Now, Darius Slayton is a guy who got an education last year because with all the wide receivers that were injured, he was their #1 receiver, and he got all the attention and didn't enjoy the success that he had his rookie year because they just gave him so much attention. So hopefully he went to school on that and understands how teams will play him when he's the #1 target.
Well, too, if everybody can remain healthy, and Galladay and Sterling Shepard and Evan Ingram and Saquon Barkley, you know, it's going to be an interesting scenario because there's other guys that are going to command a lot of attention outside of Slayton.
Yeah, and you don't have enough skilled defensive backs to cover all those guys that play at a high level. So you got to pick your poison, and then it's up to Daniel Jones to find the matchup.
What about number 55 there, Reggie Ragland? He's a veteran player, former star at Alabama. He's kind of a first down, second down, run-stopping linebacker.
Well, you're going to need one of those on those downs, Bob. You need a big run stopper. You need a thudder in the middle of your defense when you get in those first and second down situations, especially against run-centric football teams.
Cam Brown, number 47, outside backer. He made some nice things happen for the Giants last season. Alfred Morris, veteran running back. Devontae Downs got him around the waist. But let's send it down to Sean O'Hara.
Hey, Bob, I love hearing you guys talk about smash mouth football, the big fellas up front, and no doubt about it, you could see the very first play of this drill, this inside run drill. They went 36 power, as we used to call it back in the day. Pull the backside guard, lead with the fullback. That's what they want to be offensively. And, you know, you guys were both talking about how they want to be explosive offensively, and they want to establish that kind of identity. The offense this year, Bob and Carl, they just can't beat themselves. And that happened too many times last year. So the negative plays are just as important to eliminate as the explosive plays are to add. And I think once they establish that run game, we saw Devontae Booker take reps with the ones. I really like his shiftiness. I like his vision. So look for him, you know, in these preseason games as they start to try to build their identity. And as they go into week 1 with Saquon Barkley's status not quite determined yet, look for Devontae Booker and Corey Clement to get a lot of action.
Hey, Sean, can you talk a little bit about the power run game? Because when you start pulling guards, you get the angles, and is that a benefit to the backs where they can see the hole quicker or make a cut more decisively?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, as an offensive lineman, and our philosophy, Carl, is we want to edge the defense. So whenever you're pulling a guard, whether it's a front side or back side, you're edging them somewhere at the point of attack with a double team. And when you kick a defender out as a pulling guard, it creates a huge seam. And the running backs have to understand where that's going to be because it closes in a heartbeat. We call it in a hillbilly hiccup is how fast that hole closes. So the running back has to anticipate where that's going to be. And as a guard, that's why it's so important to get a little bit of movement so you can create more space for them.
Be interesting to see what the Giants are able to do as far as creating those run lanes that Sean is talking about. And obviously, you know, Carl, people that are watching this, you remember it's practice. And there's a lot of coaching that's going on, a lot of stuff going on in players' ears, just kind of chatting it up, and the coaches making sure that everybody is on the same page. And Sean, it looks like the Giants have Kyle Murphy in here at left guard as they're kind of giving guys different opportunities with this offensive line at the left guard spot.
Yeah, Bob, Kyle's wearing number 60, so he better represent. I think when you look at the one thing that this offensive line has done pretty much all training camp, they have had a rotation. We've seen Nick Gates in at guard. We've seen Matt Parrott in at right tackle, at left tackle. We've seen a lot of change. Obviously, Will Hernandez over at right guard now. Shane Lemieux, who's not out there tonight, but you know he would be in there at left guard. They want to get all of these guys comfortable in every position. You never know when your backup guard has to come in a pinch and somebody's got to move out. So it's absolutely a big part of it. We saw Kenny Wiggins, he was in early on. There was a big collision and a big hit on that second play. And now that's why you see the substitution. But no doubt about it, this drill right here, it's all about pad level, the hitting. We've seen the Giants kind of ramp up all throughout training camp to get to a practice like today, which is a very physical, very tough practice.
Sterling Shepard with a couple of catches for those Giants fans that are not familiar with the fact that Sterling, with the new league rule as far as numbers that you can wear, has switched from 87 to number 3.
And there's a message to the number 3, too. I talked to him yesterday, and obviously he wanted to change that number for a lot of reasons, but he said that 3 also represents him wanting to be Mr. Third Down in this offense. He wants to be available on every play, but on third down, he wants to be Mr. Third Down.
Alex Bachman on a little slip screen for the Giants as the horn sounds to end that specific period in drill session. And man, it is hot and humid, Carl.
It is. You can see them down there. They're gassed. But this is good. This is better than wind sprints after practice, because they're getting it in repetition in the actual drills.
There's number 66, Shane Lemieux. So everybody's going to reconvene with their position groups and continue to work their way through practice. Joe Judge always likes to sprinkle in some special teams periods, and you see Thomas McGahee, the special teams coordinator, who just darted into the picture there.
Yeah, and then, you know, for special teams, Bob, a lot of these young players that are flashing, and even some of the veteran players, their path to a roster spot is through special teams. Like, you have some backup players that happen to be some darn good special teams guys. Well, if they're not doing it on special teams, it's going to be hard for them to make the roster.
And really, in practices, and it is with a lot of the teams in the National Football League, Carl, no moment is wasted when they're going from one thing to another. If there's a group of players that are not involved in a specific drill, we saw, you know, the D linemen, you know, just working on some hand placement and getting reps in. There's not a lot of standing around, kneeling on helmets, being on a knee.
No, it's not, because the teaching never stops, and that's what this coaching staff is all about. As you can see there, they're teaching. Your offensive line coach here, teaching. Everything is fundamentals, making sure you have all your techniques right, and they're just working through footwork and how their hands are supposed to be. So they never stop reinforcing all the things that are necessary to function at a high level at game speed.
You know, it's kind of interesting there, because we saw the offensive linemen taking their set and the hand placement, and then we go right to the other side of the field, and we're looking at the defensive linemen. How do you beat that hand placement that's coming at you?
Right, and I can guarantee you, from the offensive side, that offensive line coach was giving them a play. So they knew what the protection was. He wants to make sure that all of those things are in place. And then on the defensive side, they're countering that. They're saying, if they do this, if they set this way, this is what we got to do, and this is our counter.
There's a repetition, almost a monotony that comes to football practice, training camp practice. I mean, these are things where the reps, they've been doing this every day. This is the first time that fans have gotten to see it in person. Obviously, we bring you the TV show every day, but you know, you see a lot of the same stuff over and over again, because by the time you get to the regular season, when something's called, Carl, you want to make sure that it's instinctive, because if you have to think about it, you're toast.
Exactly, and they don't want to go into a game trying to correct mistakes that are based on fundamental flaws, because that means they didn't do their job in getting these guys ready this point of the season. So the corrections you make they should not be fundamentals. You should have sound fundamentals, and to be able to rely on those fundamentals in adverse situations. That's why they're going through these things, like you said, so they become second nature. So you don't have to worry about, well, what happened? Did you get your hand in the right place? Did you get your head in the right place? You know, when they call a certain play, this is what they're supposed to do, and they know it from the minute they break the huddle.
Hone your craft.
Oh, look at there, Sean.
Hone it.
Hone it.
Kevin Gilbride used to say it all the time, master your craft. Whatever position that is, be a master at it. if you're an offensive lineman, be a master with your hands, with your punch. Every single set, you know exactly where you're supposed to be, what the angles are. I mean, it's a simple game. Head coach Brian Billick, Super Bowl winning champion coach of the Baltimore Ravens, used to say this game is about numbers and angles. That was his big shtick. And an offensive lineman, it's all about angles, blocking angles. And for defensive guys, the hands, that's such a big part of it. They're trying to get my hands off of them. They're trying to knock my punch down. So as an offensive lineman, you're not as good as your first punch. You're only as good as your second punch because you know they're anticipating that first one. So everything that they're doing in all these little drills, you hope to carry over into the team drills, and then you hope that it carries over on Sundays and makes it fun.
Leonard Williams trying to get the fans fired up. Carl, I want to ask you about the Giants' first-round draft pick, Kadarius Toney, number 89. Guy plays with a lot of speed, explosive. How do you think Jason Garrett will be able to fit him into this Giants offense?
Well, I think to get him acclimated, they're going to give him things that he could excel at right away. And you know, with Jason Garrett, he's had a lot of screens and sweeps, jet sweeps in his on his resume over the past year. So have a guy like that to get him in motion, to give him stuff that he can immediately latch on to would be great. And then they're going to integrate him in because, like you said, he's got tremendous speed and he is a competitive guy. But I think they're going to try to get him into some things that they know he can excel with right away and get him going.
Giants working on the passing game right now. No linemen in the game. Daniel Jones going up top. Broken up nicely by the defense. Rodarius Williams.
This is a kid that has flashed every single practice in coverage, Bob. I don't know where he was supposed to be drafted, but being Mr. Irrelevant, he is not irrelevant in this scheme. He has competed every single practice that I've watched him in. And he is the younger brother of Greedy Williams of the Cleveland Browns, right?
Mm-hmm. Darius Williams played his college ball at Oklahoma State. Well, that's really good coverage, Carl, because the bottom line is this. Daniel Jones ain't going to have that much time in the game.
Yeah, and that's why he started moving around out of the pocket there. But this is what you see from this Giant defense. They will give you fits, and this is exactly what Daniel Jones needs to experience because this group, they compete.
Down on the other end of the field, you got the O lineman and the D lineman. Little different than when you played, Carl, and even Sean, when Sean first broke into the league in 2000. Put it this way, it's a lot safer than it used to be.
Yeah, it is. I mean, these drills right here, somebody be on the ground every single rep. Either defender or offensive player, somebody's going to the ground.
Obviously, there's no two-a-days anymore. That ended with the collective bargaining agreement, the newly signed one in 2011. And, you know, listen, it's a scenario that all 32 coaches in the National Football League have to work around.
Yeah.
We got to figure out ways to get it as intense as they can and get as much accomplished as they can without the two-a-days and the level of physicality that we once saw in an NFL training camp practice.
Well, and it's important that on days like today you get the right types of drills so that these guys can condition. You know, two-a-days, and I'm not a back-in-the-day type of guy, but getting in condition in this type of weather, you'd have to practice in it twice, right? So you knew you were going to be grinding. This is a one-a-day. It's a controlled setting, but you've got to maximize every rep so that the body gets used to this type of weather.
There's Lorenzo Carter, who had the Achilles injury last year, Carl, and boy, the Giants hope he could stay healthy because he teases you with the talent that he has and some of the things he's able to do.
Yeah, and the key here for him, Bob, is just putting it all together. I mean, coming out of college, that was the thing. Can he put it all together? He flashes, and then he disappears. he's a guy with a tremendous skill set, and it seems to be a willing motor. So it's just a matter of him mentally saying, I'm going to be domineering on every single down, because he has that ability.
Saquon Barkley practiced each of the last 2 days, other than warming up a little bit, just managing him as you move along here in his return back from that knee injury.
Well, you know, you want to build to that crescendo moment. If your goal is opening day, you want to just build him up to that, so that when he hits the ground running, literally, he's doing it with 100% confidence. You know, and you know, again, because camps are not as physical, you don't have to worry about him going out there banging people, because he's not going to do it. So just bring him at the rate that he's confident in, and just let him build to opening day where he has full confidence.
All right, Daniel Jones and offense out there working on a couple things. And again, you know, working against the secondary, no linemen in there. Route combinations and just trying to get guys freed up. There's Evan Ingram.
Well, that one came on him pretty quick, and this is the bugaboo that Evan wants to change the narrative on that because of his skill set. Now, he hadn't dropped a lot in practice, so this is the first time people seeing him drop one, but he won't lose his confidence. And Daniel's probably saying, I probably could have put that on you a little more in front of you. You have to reach back a bit on it, but it was a catchable ball.
There's Mike Glennon, number 2, who is backup quarterback for the Giants, veteran player in his 9th year out of North Carolina State.
And, you know, it's important to have a veteran backup on your roster, and one that has played meaningful downs in the NFL, because as we've seen over the last few years, quarterbacks, especially the mobile ones, they can miss a couple games. So you want to have a guy who can come in and at least hold the rope, and you put all the other pieces around him so that he doesn't have to have the same burden as a starting quarterback, but you need a guy with the experience to hold the rope.
Offensive coordinator Jason Garrett going over things with his quarterbacks. Clayton Thorson is the 3rd quarterback on the roster. Graham Gano had an incredible year last year. Was nearly perfect, and what a great signing by the Giants.
It really was, and he's a guy that's going to continue, and because, you know, you don't settle for what you did last year in this system. You've got to do it each and every game. It's a mark of consistency. And, you know, when you have a standard bearer like a Adam Vinatieri, who was always counted on in the clutch, that's what he needs to mean to this Giant football team.
Working on special teams again, onside kick recovery.
And those are, I mean, the offensive recovery of onside kicks have almost become extinct, because it's just so hard for the kicking team to get one of these. I think they had 2 all last year, between 2 and 4. I don't think it got to anywhere close to double digits.
Let's send it down to the field and Sean O'Hara.
Yeah, Bob, Carl, great work right there for the special teams. Obviously, as a kicker, you want to try to get that high bounce that your guys are talking about for the onside kick. Ask the Atlanta Falcons how that works out if you mess up the last play of the game and lose a game. They lost to the Cowboys in week 3. But as much as special teams is a factor right now and they're working on one end, the one thing that you know as an offensive lineman, special teams period is not a period off. They're working twists and stunts pickups right behind me. And, you know, Carl, you alluded to this earlier on. It was one of the things that they struggled with last year, blitz pickups, picking up stunts, picking up twists, guys in movement. And a lot of that comes with time and chemistry. You have to be comfortable with the guy next to you, that he is seeing the same thing. Anytime you pass off a twist, you have to verbalize does it, you have to know exactly how to handle it and be on the same level. So that takes time, it takes reps, and that's one of the things they're working on right now.
Sean, I want to ask you about number 71, Will Hernandez, who, when the Giants drafted him, there were very high expectations. They took him in the second round. He was supposed to be an anchor on this offensive line. He started a lot of games, has never really gotten his game to that next level. Now he's making the move over to the right side. What are some of the things, because you mentioned the twists, and that was an issue for him. What are some of the things that he has to get better at in order to go from the left side to the right side and maintain a starting job here?
Yeah, Bob, for Will Hernandez, it's all about that change of direction. Look, he is a freight train. You get him on the tracks, and he's going to mow people down. He's moving over to the right guard now, which I think might actually suit him a little bit better. Typically, your right guard is your power guard. Back in the day for us, it was Chris Snee. He was one of the strongest guys on our entire team. So for Will, I think this is really going to benefit him. And Shane Lemieux did such a good job in left guard. It's almost like Will kind of got Wally pipped. But I think now for him to move over to the right guard, everything now is going to be downhill for him. And I think he really excels in the run game. But the passing game, it's tough. That's the toughest position and the toughest play for an offensive lineman. You're moving backwards, and you have a defensive lineman that is doing all kinds of moves and bouncing all over the place. So it's really tough. You have to have great footwork. You have to have a low center of gravity. So that's something that Will has really been working on. It's something that every time I see him, I try to remind him, hey, get your second step down, because as an offensive lineman, you never want to be up in the air on one leg. And that's in pass pro, that's what defensive linemen are trying to do to you. So for Will, he's strong enough. He's got great hands. He just needs to get him inside and needs to handle the change of direction and all of that movement we just talked about.
You see Matt Parrott, Will Hernandez.
Nate Solder, who's back in the fold.
Yeah, Nate Solder, Giants head coach Joe Judge has talked about, the kind of camp that Nate Solder has had. He said he's been very impressive for the Giants so far.
Well, I mean, that's the camp that they expect of him. That's why they brought him here. The injuries, he kind of walked into camp last year with an ankle issue, and or year before. And then last year he took off because of the concerns with COVID and his little one. But he's the guy, they still believe in him. He's not a guy that you're just going to cast off. Even if he's in as part of a rotation, he is a tremendous asset to this offensive line, not to mention his knowledge of the game and how defenses are going to attack. He can help this young group in ways that they couldn't get from a guy that came in the league with them.
Yeah, Nate Solder was quick to point out when he was asked, about coming back, and when he decided to come back, and then, Andrew Thomas is the left tackle for this football team, and his quote, to paraphrase, was, hey, I signed a contract to play for the New York Giants. I didn't sign a contract to play left tackle. Wherever I can help the team, whatever I can do to help this football team, wherever they ask me to go, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability.
And that's what it's all about. And, sometimes fans get caught up into what the depth chart looks like and who does what. But it is clearly the more competition you can create on your roster, the better the overall position groups are.
That speaks volumes about Nate Solder and his character, and I think that's a huge part of it. Carl, you mentioned what an asset he is. I think not just to the offensive line, but to the team. I mean, this guy's a Super Bowl champ. This guy played left tackle for a long time in the league. You don't just let guys like that walk out of the building for no reason. So I think Nate's got some good football left in him, and I really think he's very integral and very important for this offense as they try to shape that identity. He's the veteran guy in the room, and he is a voice that people will listen to.
Exactly, and Sean, you know better than I do that every team in the NFL is looking for either a starting tackle or tackle depth. And so to let a guy like that walk would be a benefit to any other team in the league, because there's so many teams that are trying to, piece together a solid offensive line.
Alfred Morris, Giants brought him back. He's the back along with Daniel Jones at quarterback.
Good protection, good coverage. Tell you, this defense I mean, it's two ways to look at this, and I'm sure some people are charting Daniel Jones completions and incompletions, but you might want to chart just how aggressive this defense is. I mean, this is the stuff Daniel Jones needs to see in order for him to take the next step. He needs to be going against aggressive defenses every single day.
Isaac Yiadom, who the Giants acquired in a trade last year from the Denver Broncos, number 27, with some nice coverage there. Glennon in at quarterback.
No yards after catch. Guys are breaking up on it.
Corey Clement with the catch. And one thing the Giants have done, Carl, is not only have they upgraded the backup running back position, but the guys that they brought in are capable in the passing game as well.
Yeah, they are, and that's what you need. You need guys that are going to be available, because your personnel groupings, you don't want to have a defense that can predict what you're doing just based on personnel. You want to have your playbook available to you regardless. There's a breakthrough in the offensive line. Regardless of your personnel, you want to have guys in there that can do everything. Darnay Holmes is a kid also who is looking to take the next step, and having Adoree Jackson on the roster will really help him.
Carl, I would say to this point, so far in this practice, I think the defensive guys have looked a little crisper than the offense.
Well, that's the way it should be from my perspective. I've enjoyed a lot of practices like that, being disruptive to the offense. But, you know, when the offense takes a step back and look at it on film, they're going to see where their opportunities are. And if they're going against, you know, a top-level defense, they know there are going to be opportunities against talent that's not as good as theirs. But, you know, execution is always important when you're running an offense. You do want to see some positive plays, even though the defense will be as steadfast as possible in denying any type of success. And when you get, you know, 4 or 5 defensive backs in the game that can really cover, it can be tough.
Kenny Wiggins is the left guard with this starting unit now. The Giants are working, you know, in that red zone offensively, that goal-to-goal situation.
And this is where you want to see your execution.
Shepard with the catch.
It's 2nd and 5. Let's see what they do here. Now, in a normal situation, call this a dealer's choice. You got a draw available to you, a run available to you, and a pass. And this is the area where defenses get really screwed up, because the coordinator doesn't know whether or not he want to be in man coverage or a zone match coverage. And if you see man or zone match, you can bet the quarterback's going to get some type of run going there, wouldn't he, Sean?
Yeah, down here in the red zone, it's definitely tough to run the football. But when you bring in extra tight ends, you make them think run, and then boom, here you go. You sneak them out the side door.
There it is.
Just like that.
Cole Hicatini, second-year tight end out of North Carolina State, with the catch and score.
Boy, I tell you, beneath the 2 starting tight ends, there's going to be some competition for a roster spot there. You're looking at one, and you've got another one coming in, and is it Race Jones?
Oh, John Rice.
John Ryson.
Yeah, John Ryson. Plus, you know, the Giants are expecting to get Kyle Rudolph, you know, back from that foot injury.
Yeah, and there's Ryson right there, closest to the line of scrimmage in that trips formation. He's got really good wiggle. He's a former wide receiver that they're converting. There he is in the back of the end zone.
Alfred Morris with the catch. Not sure if Daniel Jones crossed the line of scrimmage or not. Alfred Morris, it's hard to believe all the years he was in the league. It's hard to believe last year when he had that touchdown catch, it was the first touchdown reception of his career.
Yeah, I mean, he's such a good runner, and you know, people like this is why he's a giant football player, because the personnel folks here, they look at not only what you do best, but what you could do, and they found out that he could catch, and they took advantage of it because the defense is looking at the same analytics. They're saying, well, this guy is not a threat in the offense. He doesn't catch the football. Had never caught a touchdown in his career. Lo and behold, the Giants give him one. He catches it, touchdown. Now, you know, he breaks the model.
Just saw Ryan Santoso connect on the field goal for the Giants. They have two kickers in camp, obviously Graham Gano and Ryan Santoso.
Gotcha.
So they'll try a 45-yarder. Riley Dixon is the holder.
Okey-dokey.
Let's see if Santoso can knock one down from 54 yards.
Snap, the kick.
Good.
Good.
Santoso from 54.
Bob, you didn't give it the snap, the hold, the kick, and it is
Good. Yeah, we'll be doing that on Saturday, and then obviously the season opener on September the 14th here at MetLife Stadium. Or September the 12th, excuse me. September the 12th here at MetLife Stadium. 14th would be a Tuesday, and we don't want any Tuesday games this year.
That would mean that something got canceled or postponed or rescheduled.
Mike Glennon in at quarterback. Darnay Holmes didn't try to, but he shouldered down Jake Houseman.
Jake's going to have to show a little more dexterity there. He was a wrecking ball rolling downhill and couldn't get out of the way of his defender or the guy blocking in front of him.
Yeah, I don't think he knew where he was, quite honestly. Off the fingertips of David Sills, who's had a nice camp. Ball was probably led him a little too far, and he was going to be out of bounds anyway. You know, fans are watching this right now, and yeah, they're watching near the end of practice, and okay. But, you know, the coaches, each position group coach on both sides of the ball will be combing through this tape.
Yeah.
And they will be studying each individual and how they executed these plays that seem like nothing to the average person watching at home.
Right, and for Glennon here in the red zone, these are premium downs here. He's had, you know, a drop or two, an overthrow, and a fullback that runs in the back of his guy. So this is going to be a lot of teaching in this meeting after they see this tape. And Glennon, you know, hey, you get down here, you got to be able to execute. Call the plays, get the ball in the hands of the guys who can score for you. Execution, can't settle for field goals if you're a backup quarterback. There you go. Pull it down.
Good coverage again. All right, well, we hope you enjoyed this look at MetLife Stadium. Great to have fans back here at MetLife Stadium as the Giants continue their preparation for the 2021 season. For Carl Banks and Sean O'Hara, I'm Bob Papa. Thanks for joining us here from MetLife Stadium and the Giants Training Camp Report, presented by Investors Bank.